Hello, my garden friends. This is Jersey Shore Lisa from MyNJGarden.com, and today I wanted to talk to you about Egyptian walking onions, the perfect permaculture perennial vegetable onion to keep in your yard because you plant it and it will come back year after year after year. They are carefree, super hardy, can grow in zones 3 through 9, and the scientific name is Allium prolifica, I think. I'll double check. Garden friends, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel and please like the video to stay with me for all my garden updates. This is the Egyptian walking onion. Don't be fooled, you can definitely plant it in the ground in your garden, as I said, anywhere in zones 3 through 9. The entire plant is edible at every stage of growth. So in the very early spring, it will be one of the first greens to come up in your garden. And they are small. When they first come up, they'll peek out through the snow, and you can eat them then, and they're very much like chives or scallions. Then as they grow up, they will have a papery papery section that will travel up the main stalk, and that will encase these top sets or bulbits up at the top of the onion. Now, they're called Egyptian walking onions, but they're also called perennial onions and top setting onions and tree onions. And that's because once these top sets start to form, you can see that just like there's an onion in the ground that's kind of shallot shaped, they don't get big and bulby underground like the grocery store onions do. But they are bunching, so you'll have multiple onions after a few years. The first year there'll be one onion, and then if you leave them in the ground, multiple bulbs will form and more onions will come up from that. So as they grow up, these top sets form and small onions form at the top of the main stalk. Once this happens in late summer, you can pick off these top sets and separate them into the separate bulbits and plant those individually in the ground, or you can eat them if you like. But right there's brand new onion plants for you to spread around, so you can eat the mature ones and you can replant the top sets, so you have a never-ending supply of Egyptian walking onions in your yard. The older onions, I find, the flavor is very good, but the texture, they do have a tough middle stem, but you can separate the bulb from the tougher middle stem and just discard that. And I tend to use them in things like stews and sauces and eggs and whatever you would use onions in, with meat dishes and things like that. So I want to show you why they're called walking onions though. You see these top sets here, none of them are really walking. This one is very slightly, but on the other side of the yard I have a better example of this. Here's another example of Egyptian walking onions in the container behind me, and you can see that this is an older onion, and it has grown up tall, created a top set, and as that top set forms, it gets heavy and it causes the plant to bend over and replant itself, and that's how the onions will walk around your garden. If you don't want that to happen and you just want them to stay in place, remove the top sets and eat them or plant them, or you can allow them to do their thing and move around your yard. This one, you can see had become well established. It was the top sets were actually growing into new onions, as well as it created a whole new plant and with another top set. So this is like double duty here with the amount of onions we're gonna have. You can also see that sometimes these onions, while they create top sets, they will also flower. and there are some spent flowers on here. I wouldn't bother trying to collect seed and grow Egyptian walking onions from seed. There's no need to do that because these bulbits become onions the very next year, within the same year, the next growing season. So that's the way I would propagate them. As a matter of fact, let's do that now. Here, I've taken the top set off of the Egyptian walking onion plant. And let me just show that to you up close so you can see what that looks like. There's those, there's those. And now I'm just going to separate them into individual bulbs. Just like planting garlic, you would put the fat end of the bulbit into the ground facing down and the pointy end facing up. So I'm just going to pop it in an inch or two deep. And cover it up. I want to put them in a nice sunny location. They will always do better in sun than in shade. And by later this year, at the very least by spring, I'll have a new patch of Egyptian walking onions. How easy is that? Don't forget to water in your freshly planted onions. Something else to add about Egyptian walking onions. You can see I have one growing here amongst the gagoots squash, and there's some over there as well. There's one also in with the gagoots. Is that I don't have many in the ground because bunnies love them. They are adored by the bunnies. So I keep trying to plant them in the ground, but it's really the pest pressure, not the fault of the plant, that keeps me from growing as many of these as I would really like. At my other property, I did not have as much pest pressure, and I had an entire bed that was filled with them all the time. So if you have pest pressure, you may have to protect them from the bunnies. Right now, this bit here must be confusing the bunnies. They don't find them in here, and they don't tend to hop up into the containers for some reason. And I think they're really delicious and a perfect addition to the permaculture garden. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.